That's Chris.
The guy with over here.
It's the guy with no headphones.
Shoes are heading that way.
Oh shit! Come and shoe it, radio.
It's got a ring to it.
Welcome back to Come and Brew It Radio, coming to you from Texas Brewing Inc. and Haltom City, Texas. You can find us on the web at txbrewing.com and be sure to follow us on Facebook and share with your friends.
In this episode, we're going to continue our coverage of the beers Nigel brought back from his recent visit to England and hear about some of the places he went and how the beer scene is there. Tonight's beers have a strong focus on the darker British ales like porters and stouts, but there are a few others in there too, including some that were bottled as he was there. Plus, since he's the traveling type, he stopped in to visit the new digs of our friends at Guadalupe Brewing in New Braunfels, Texas, and brought back a few samples of their recent batches that we want to dig into. So pour yourself a cask ale and put on your best S&M gear to kick back because we're going to get British.
Woo! And once you got your S&M gear on, be sure to check out our Patreon account to help support the show. Every little bit counts, and if you visit patreon.com/Come and Brew It Radio, we have a variety of options for you to help keep the show going, get involved, and improve it. Also, every live show will have a giveaway for all our patrons, and at the end of each month, we'll be doing a monthly product giveaway for all our $5, $10, and $20 patrons. Big thanks to Brian Judelson for becoming a patron. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Hell
Thanks,
yeah.
Brian. Thank you.
I'm Nigel,
I'm Greg.
I'm Brandon.
Stubby.
I'm Michael.
and this is Jimmy.
And I'm Chris.
All right, so if
We got a full house tonight.
Yeah, and if y'all are out there digging around for your S&M gear to put on, because I know we didn't give you a lot of notice and you're probably scrambling, remember, we said your best.
Oh yeah, it's got to be
S&M
it's
gear.
got to be the best stuff, not just any old.
No
S&M stuff.
Velcro.
No
All right.
All
Buckles,
leather,
nothing with
baby.
elastic.
buckles, belts, leather.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, see, you
And
got to give me more
steel.
heads up. I mean, I keep the cheap stuff at the ready. It's the nicer stuff with the good clasp and stuff.
Well, that's a you problem.
And so we have a stranger among us. He hasn't been back in, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 episodes. I don't know.
At least.
We got Jimmy Big Ears here with us. So
One of the original hosts.
yeah, one of the original guys.
It's good to sit in with you guys again.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the original hoes.
The original host. I'll take that.
Oh man. So anyway, we we were all wondering what happened to Jimmy, and then he brings this good looking blonde girl into the podcast deal
She
tonight.
has a lot to do with that, but not everything to do with my my missing person scenario.
But
She
anyway,
looks great though. Look at her. Yeah. She looks cold.
now you're gonna have a whole bunch of homebrew perverts looking at our podcast now, man.
How did we
Yeah.
get here already?
I know, right? So anyway, we got a great
just
show
started.
tonight. We've got a ton of content. We're also going to talk to was it Keith? I never pronounce his name.
Keith and Anna Kilker.
Kilker. I always
Guadalupe
pronounce his
Brewing
last
Company.
name wrong. So we kind of running late tonight, so we're going to actually probably go. Do we have time for recent happenings? Yeah, I guess we do.
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes here. So
Okay, so let's go through recent happenings, and then we'll just dive directly in and give him a call.
So first off, we need to give some props here to Nigel for heading up the Iron Mash event that we do once a year that our club does. Yeah, I know we've talked about it
Yeah.
several times on the air.
Thanks, Stubby.
I know we've talked about it several times on the air over the years, but this is my favorite event that our club does. It's the only thing that gets me to drag all my shit out of my house and down to another location, which is such a pain in the butt. It's basically like the Iron Chef, where we all go down and we set up in the parking lot at Raw Brewing, and we're given a group of ingredients that we don't know what they are until they're given to us, and then some specialty ingredients to go into it. We have to come up with a beer in about 20 or 30 minutes and brew it there on the spot and use the specialty ingredients in it, and it's a lot of fun. I've never even come close to winning, but that's all right because
Until
we
this
always-
Maybe
year.
this year.
I think I've always made a beer that I liked. I don't think there's been one time when I've made one that I thought was crap.
Sometimes take longer than others to be ready, though, right?
You know, that's for sure. Yeah. Sometimes they're not ready till long after
Like a
the
year.
competition is done with. Yeah. And then other times they've gone way, way too long. We did a tamarind blonde one year, And Doug Zent brought out his like 3 years after it was done. Hey, I got my Iron Mash beer, guys. We're like, are you kidding me? And it tasted exactly like what you think a 3-year-old fruited blonde would taste like. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to say, this was my first year doing it. Man, Nigel, you challenged me as a brewer. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I definitely will be back. So
Well, good.
It
Thank you.
was a really good group of brewers out there this year. It was just very laid back and easy going. And
yeah, it really was.
it wasn't a mad rush to get in and out of there like it normally is.
And they're all drunk by noon.
It wasn't that bad.
Not even that.
We-
No.
No, we floated both the kegs out there. So
There were kegs out there?
How many teams were there?
Nigel
there
can
was
answer,
28
yeah.
teams and 18 different styles brewed. We gave them special ingredients of Swiss Miss hot chocolate mix, the Tahine salt seasoning, and then each team had a random third special ingredient in the box. There was 40 boxes, so 28 teams, so that even the 28th team had a selection to pick from. And 2 lots of 20 different specialty ingredients. And so everybody had something a bit different, and they had to use 2 of the 3 specialty ingredients. And then the other quirk we put in there was the base grain, the hops, and the yeast all had to come from different geographic countries.
I
So-
think that was the biggest curve. Well, not only that, but the single malt or the single specialty malt.
Right.
To me, that was the hardest component. I could have done a lot of things with what I had, but only one specialty malt.
Yeah, so we gave them 1 base grain. They could only use one specialty grain, 1 hop, and then obviously 1 yeast. So
Well,
Ni-
originally,
Nigel-
how we had discussed it was actually just doing all smash
all
beers.
smash beers. Yeah.
But then we figured it would be hard to judge against the BJCP, so we
Yeah,
did
so
add
we
that.
opened it up a bit.
You end up with 20 saisons when that happens. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Everybody brews a saison.
And the whole idea of the country thing was to get people out of their house beers, and that was, to stop people from, if it was me, the first thing I was going to look at was how to brew an English beer, and so by changing the countries up, people couldn't do that. They had to think about it a bit more and see what they could do. They might still been able to do a bitter or something like that, or a straightforward beer of what they would normally do, but they had to think about it harder.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It didn't stop us from brewing the beer we wanted to brew, but we had to say, okay, well, we're not going to be able to use a Continental Pilsner malt in this. We're going to have to use an American two-row.
Two-row,
And how do
yeah.
we formulate this European beer with American base malt? And again, it didn't stop us from brewing the beer we wanted to brew, but you're right. You had to think about it more.
Yeah.
And so Nigel was the organizer. Stubby is always a big contributor to this
Yes,
event.
so
We
he
would
is,
never
and
be
we
able
thank
to
you
pull
for
this
that.
off without Texas Brewing sponsoring it. And so
And thanks to
we're
Raw-
always very
Raw
thankful.
Brewery as
Yeah,
well.
and Raw
Raw-
Brewing
Raw and
also.
Sons.
We're always very thankful to everybody that puts the work into it because it is a lot of work on everybody's.
So,
part.
if anybody's entered and they're listening tonight or listening on the recording, bring your A game for the food pairing on the awards day, which is on the 27th of January. We are planning to up the game on that as well. So,
I'm going to roast an entire pig on site.
nice. Cool.
Rare.
Even
We're
better.
going to do
Extremely rare.
rare pork with our beer. Yeah.
I might give that one a miss.
Yeah. So that's the other thing is that the way it's judged is we have like a people's choice type of presentation where everybody shows up, serves their beer. This time we're going to be doing a food pairing to go along with the beer, which we've done once or twice in the past.
Yeah. So there'll be a
And,
first, second, and third judged BJCP. So there'll be 3 standard first, second, and third prizes, and then a brewer's choice for beer, and then a best food and beer pairing. And like I say, we're planning 1 or 2 extra items to really kick it up a bit, turn it up a notch.
The losers get
Tased.
whipped, tased.
That's that S&M
I
again.
can't wait.
Yeah.
That makes it better. Keeps you awake for the ride home.
So always a fun competition. I had a great time again this year. I didn't get to do it last year, and I was really disappointed. I had some work thing or something that conflicted with it, so it was nice to get out there and do it again. Kicked my butt though. I'm going to tell you what. The next day I was beat.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, I bet.
I
It
was-
starts very early in the morning, and
Yeah.
it's a long day, and we have several beers in order to achieve the proper chemical balance. So
I slept
That's
really
important.
great later that day.
yeah, I learned that Chris doesn't ever sleep.
Yeah, that was a really long weekend for me. That
driven for 12 hours total that weekend. Between
He's like,
driving,
I think an hour of sleep was probably enough to.
yeah,
this thing
it's
in.
okay. I had a 50-minute nap
slept in a
before we
chair.
rolled out to Iron Mash.
Then you had about a 50-minute nap during Iron Mash.
Yeah,
so.
that's what the boil step's for.
It's always so early though. You feel hungover whether you are or not. You
Yeah.
know, kind of get a jump on it.
Somehow we set up in the shade. We were in the shade the entire time, but I got home and was sunburnt.
Mom, get off the line! I'm trying to talk.
So 28 teams. That's probably about 18 more teams than my first Iron Mash. I think there was about 10.
We had 16 last year.
It's
I think.
fluctuated a lot over the years.
Yeah.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that there was enough teams to keep the interest, and reached out to all the local homebrew clubs and stuff, and people were responsive, and it was a great turnout, and I think everybody enjoyed it. I didn't have any negative complaints on the day at all. Zero.
Very good.
Well,
Yeah,
we say all that shit behind your back.
Well, that's fine. I'm just saying I didn't have any.
Right.
Not directly.
Right.
So we got a couple more recent happenings to get to, but before we do that, we're going to get Keith on the phone from Guadalupe Brewing. I heard a phone dialing in there.
Right, and will you guys go ahead and kind of introduce him and tell everybody what we're going to be discussing?
Yeah, let's hand this over to Jimmy and Nigel.
Keith and Anna Kilker down in New Braunfels, they have a lot of stuff going on. Not only great beer, just everything good in general, with philanthropy, being a great local business and doing things for the community. They've recently started branching out and getting bigger, square footage-wise and beer-wise. And they're great people. I love them to death, and I miss them, and I can't wait to see them soon. And I can't wait to talk to them. Yeah.
No, you hang up first.
Are they with it? Are they with us?
No, we'll hear them.
They need to
Okay.
be with us.
Okay. So, I happened to be down there in San Antonio about 2 weeks ago, and I just happened to stop by the tap room. And it's been something I've been meaning to do for quite some time, but my dates down there have never coincided with their openings and stuff, and this time they did. So I stopped by and had a few beers.
You missed them. I hate that you missed them, though.
Well, there'll be plenty of other opportunities, hopefully, because I'm
like
down
we're
there
about
fairly
to miss 'em.
regularly. But I
Hello.
Hello.
How's it
How do you
going?
do? You're on Come and Brew
Hey,
Radio.
Oh, right on. What's up?
Welcome back,
on the
Keith.
live. Welcome back, yeah. It's good to hear that voice.
Right on.
And how are things going?
Good. Just staying busy. We got a race at the brewery tomorrow, so we're
Oh,
trying to
really?
get ready for. We got to get ready tonight for that.
Very good, very good. So you're in from the tap room tonight, or?
Yeah. Well, me and Mama took off a little bit early and let the folks close down for us.
Very good, very good. Good turnout tonight.
Yeah, not bad at all. Weather's finally breaking down here.
Oh man, it's been brutal.
Yeah, for those of you outside of Texas, it's been raining for about a month and a half straight out here. It's a little ridiculous. So we've had a couple days of sunshine here. Everybody's delirious.
For sure, for sure. Is that getting your hops growing, Keith?
This year, because of the move, I didn't have a whole lot of time to spend with them, so we weren't able to harvest anything. But we did get some planted this year, so next year we should see some good growth.
Very good, very good. Let's talk about this expansion of y'all's.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess since you were there last, we were at 1580 Wald Road in it's like in an industrial complex, and just next door there was a 3.5 acre farm property that we've been looking at for a long time, and we were able to make a deal. So we bought it. We rebuilt a barn that was originally constructed 2 years after the end of the Civil War and made that into a tap room.
Very good. Which had a huge Gila monster in it, right? Was that a Gila monster?
Yeah, that was a West, Nile monitor lizard.
Yeah. What a crazy...
Yeah.
Keith was
South Texas.
cleaning out barrels. It was in this barn, this huge lizard. is living in this barn.
Oh, you're not talking about a stuffed lizard. You're talking about there was actually a giant
real
lizard in there?
lizard, like a huge lizard.
Wow.
Yeah. And I guess you guys turned it over to a herpetologist.
I think I'd have moved too.
No, this is in the new facility.
Oh, it's in the new one.
Yeah, a barn they procured. It was next door down the street, and but they were going to turn into their tap room, and they found this humongous lizard. Yeah,
I can confirm it wasn't there last week.
Yeah. So the long story was, the short story, sorry, was that it had escaped from a guy's home just down the road, and it had lived in the barn for, I guess, about a year and a half.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
yeah, we went in to clean up everything, and one of the guys found it and called us and said he's looking at a 6-foot lizard. I was like, yeah. I'm just like,
See? You could have had a brewery lizard, man. Official brewery lizard.
You know, man, it's very intimidating because, you know, a wild animal that is not like scared of you.
Didn't you have a beer name contest, like a lizard beer name contest going there for a while or something like that?
I mean, well, ultimately what we, the one beer that we have is the green and only, which is a lizard. That's just the red ale. So, yeah, that's as close as we got to that.
Very good, man. Very good. And I guess you have a new brew house as well, or you're building a new brew house.
No, it's we're done with construction of that, and we have our 20-barrel system up and running in that facility, and we got a new 60-barrel fermenter, and I guess we have all the bugs worked out, and we've got probably about 15, 16 brews behind us in there now. So
nice.
Very good.
See, when we went down there last with Texas Brewing, it was before the 20-barrel was fully up and running.
Yes.
And then, but you already had a great turnout every time in the tap room, making some great beers, winning some awards and whatnot. And it's nice to see that you've got the tap room and whatnot to go with the whole setups going on. Because like Nigel went down there a week ago and he brought some beers back and he just was amazed at the place, and he sent us some pictures, and we're like, man, that is gorgeous. It's nice to see that you've taken the step towards that, you know, that the success is following, man, right? So
yeah, I mean, ultimately I think, guys, really craft beer is changing. I mean, if you look at kind of what's happening elsewhere in the country, we're taking some hits. I mean, marijuana is killing craft beer in some states, and it's forever changing, but you have to, I mean, for us it was more of a we had to commit, and we knew that ultimately we'll be able to do a venue based operation as well as the tap room and brewery. So you have to diversify a little bit, and accommodate, make your customers happy for what they want, and stay competitive, because it's brutal out there.
Well, you seem to make a good enough beer that keeps the competition
Keeps
whirring,
the draw
I'm sure.
coming.
So,
yeah, and I was super excited to hear that Nigel brought back beer from you guys that I've never had. Of course, it's been a good solid 3 years since I've seen you guys, which is going to change soon. Tell us a little bit about your new beers, specifically maybe the pale, since we have I guess we have the pineapple pale here.
So the first one I poured, and I'm not sure if any it came across your direction, Jimmy, was the blonde.
Okay.
River Run?
Yeah, I believe
River
so.
Run, yeah.
And
Is that a lager? Is that a Hellas?
I think that went into the production room and hasn't come back out.
Yeah, that's just an American blonde. It's super easy to drink. There's nothing fancy about that. 2-row, some American hops on the front end, and just really basic, to quench the thirst.
Super clean and crisp.
Very, yeah.
This second one I just poured is the Texas Honey Ale.
Yeah, that's okay. So I have had one of the beers
Okay.
that you brought back, yeah, and that's what drew me to them. I had a Texas Honey Ale before I met the guys. Before I met Anna, actually. I met Anna before I met Keith. And I was like, man, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I was very early on in the brewing game at that point. And, it drew me in, and before I knew it, I was talking to them more and more. And helping Anna clean kegs, and we just, I don't know, I just spawned a great relationship, based around beer.
So, Keith, you're talking about the uber competitive nature of the craft brewing scene now, which is something everybody's feeling, and you're seeing breweries that did things like we're never going to brew an IPA, now brewing New England IPAs and stuff like that. What has your approach been to the type of styles that you brew in order to remain relevant in such a competitive environment?
Great question.
Right. Well, I mean, really you have to listen to your customers. Ultimately, they're going to tell you what they're what they're into. The New England is a big, it's huge right now. It's not something I like at all, but it's not about me. Ultimately, we do try to maintain a good amount of. Well, we've got 22 active taps right now, and we're pushing into 32 with the tap room out of the brewery here within a couple of weeks.
All your own beers?
Yeah, but you have to have variety.
Wow.
I mean,
That's what I was about to say. That's a huge variety for a brewery.
Particularly with the type of volume that you're brewing for a brew pub, a 20 barrel brew house doing 22 or 30 taps. That's impressive.
Meanwhile, building
brewing
new
around
facilities.
the clock.
Yeah. I'm telling you, these people are nonstop, and that's what I love about them.
I'm telling you, the facilities are fantastic. Right. That new tap room is superb. It really is.
Yeah, we put a lot of time and focus on that to get ultimately kind of that brown pub or tavern you would get in Europe, that kind of feel. That's where I really kind of fell in love with beer. It wasn't in my own country, but in there, and I just love the feel of going into a brown pub in Belgium or even the Netherlands, and I don't know. So that's really kind of something that stuck with me, and I wanted to take that into our tap room, and that's what we created.
So what does your beer lineup look like then? If you've got that many different taps, what kind of a variety have you got?
Oh Jesus! Right now we've got probably about 6 nitro taps of variations of chocolate stout. We've got a coffee stout, chocolate stout. We've got peanut butter. We have our double barrel aged imperial stout that we also put some maple in on tap, and that's about 15%.
That's a big one.
Yeah, a lot of our stuff is. But yeah, we have also some Belgian quad variations on tap. We like to keep a lot of that stuff put back and kind of just rotate it through and watch it change. We also have a cognac barrel-aged barley wine. It's an English-style barley wine. That's phenomenal. I love that. And we have some of the barley wine from last year that we've brought back out. So you have to have a lot of room for storage for these, but if you keep your tap wall interesting and you're able to hold on instead of just pushing out retail-wise all of your product, especially the bigger beer stuff, the customers appreciate it when they come into the tap room. So.
You make me want to drive down there right now.
I know.
Does Uber drive quickly? I mean,
I had the British brown ale when I was down there. That was fantastic. I had a couple of the stouts. That small stout that you have is something I'd never tasted before. It's the marshmallow and the chocolate and the graham cracker and everything just comes through, and it's an amazing
you said
beer.
s'more stout?
Small stout.
I thought you said small stout.
No,
s'more.
s'mores.
Okay.
S'more.
I'm not trying to be a smart ass. Don't throw your shoe.
Eric
at me.
is.
It's that accent, man. It's that accent. Let me ask you about the apple pie. I know me and Greg, when we were down there, that was one of my favorites. Were you able to pull that off this summer?
We have not. I think we might have done a small batch of that just for the wall, but it has been a little bit. I mean, that's a crowd favorite.
Yeah.
But me and cinnamon have this like love-hate relationship. And,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I get you on that. Is it the same with pumpkin?
Yeah, it is.
It's understandable.
You know, so just a lot more time and money goes into that to get that spot on, and I guess in the end it's worth it. But there's so many great beers that we can focus on besides that. So, but we're going to try to keep the oldies still active though.
Speaking of great beers, we've tried the River Run, we tried the Honey Ale, which we've had before. We just opened the Belgian Texas Honey.
Yeah.
Man, that's nice.
I really wanted to ask you about that beer because there's one particular flavor that I'm getting out of it. I'm curious what your process is on this.
Okay. That you pitched the wrong yeast.
I'm getting like a roasted marshmallow flavor out of this. That's really cool.
Yeah, I don't. You know, we didn't set the temperatures right on that. I'd like to tell you a really cool story, but it was just kind of a mistake. And ultimately, we're never going to put something on the wall that we don't really like. But what came out of that was just different, and that's okay. That's what shit. I mean, that's really what's cool is to be able to do different things.
See, I'm getting a lot of cherries.
That's part of it.
You know, often world's best discoveries were made by mistake.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hell, I was a mistake.
You say that again.
It's not the first time
not so great discoveries.
So this last one we've got is the Show de Bowler. I believe it's the honey pale with pineapple. Is that correct?
It is the honey ale with pineapple, a little bit of brown sugar, and a little bit of my favorite ingredient, cinnamon, seared, and then put into the beer. So if you go to a Brazilian steakhouse, usually there at the end, what you have is the traditional pineapple to help you digest all of that, all that beef you just ate. And I worked in Brazil for 8 years, and just incredible flavors down there. Not like what we have at all here in Texas. So I guess some of the influence of what I got down there, I tried to implement in several different beers, and I love that one. So it's flavorful.
It's definitely flavorful, yes. Y'all are doing great things down there, man. I want the world to know you guys for your wares. That's for sure. And
well, we're having fun, and we're staying true to independent craft. Ultimately, I don't know. A lot of people go into this business. I don't know what their intentions are. I really don't. I mean, maybe I'm an alcoholic. I don't know, but I love beer.
Right. Well, yeah.
And as much much variety as you can get, right? I mean, that's
for sure.
I think why we brew. So.
And it's experimenting. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I can tell you're never satisfied, and that comes through with your variety and your happy accidents, and we really appreciate you doing what you're doing, that and your philanthropy and your advocacy for craft beer in Texas and abroad.
So why don't you tell people where you're at? And I know that's a very heavily tourist part of the state. So when people are traveling through Central Texas, where are you, and how can they find you?
Yeah, and what's coming?
What times are you open? What days?
Okay. We're just right south of New Braunfels, north of San Antonio. We're maybe 5 minutes, I can say, away from 35, so it's easy to get over and see us. We're open right now. We're open 5 days a week, and that's Thursday through Monday. The weekdays we're open from 4 to 9. Well, Friday we're open 4 to 10. And then Saturday and Sunday we're open from 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock each night.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. What's coming up? What can we be excited about?
Okay, well, what we're just now getting everything finished up in the new tap room. It's about 20 by 60 foot. It's the front 20 foot of the brewery. We've got a tap wall in there now, and we're going to be opening that up with the 32 taps on the wall. For Wurst Fest, which is, of course, one of the biggest German festivals here in Texas, we're going to dedicate. We brewed a Hefeweizen, a Doppelbock, a German Pilsner, and we did a Kolsch. So we're really kind of geared up for the whole German-themed event going on here for the next 2 weeks, and opening up that part of the tap room so people can come and sit.
Yeah, if people haven't been to Wurst Fest and you can go, it's worth going down there, and now you have a great place to go after the festival, too. Are you guys going to be having any beer out at the fest, or...?
You know what? We have in the past. There was a lot of craft out there, and they completely shut the craft down.
Oh, did they? Yeah, I haven't been in a couple of years now, yeah. Well, that's good to know. Well, you guys are so close to that, and it's so easy to get around in that town to get out to where you are compared to where Wurst Fest is. So if anybody that's listening that's around that, man,
probably
go down
makes
there and
your life
enjoy.
a little easier that they just come to you. Huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of having to run 2 locations on the same day.
Yeah. Some people like to pay $25 for Bud Light.
Yeah.
But, it's a really cool festival. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of heritage there.
People have a good time for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not going to say anything about us having a pitcher of beer at $12 for a German Pilsner. So
you're doing everything right, man. We really appreciate you taking some time to talk with us and sharing what you got going and your passion for everything. And I don't know, you're making it happen, and it's fun to watch.
And I'll be back before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, watch out for our British guy here.
Yeah, you got a British guy stalking you.
If you see a shoe fly through your tap room,
Sam.
Well, hey, Anna's here, and she wants to talk to you guys before we get off the phone, so she can do her spill.
Cheers, dude.
Bring it on. Where's
Thanks.
Anna?
Hello.
Hello,
hey,
Anna.
I just wanted you guys to know that all of our servers took the time to become Cicerone certified beer servers. We're really proud of them.
Awesome.
Taking time to study and do it. Also, we're less than 10 minutes away from Wurst Fest for anybody that comes out. We're going to open earlier as well during Wurst Fest. We'll still be closed on Tuesday and Wednesday, but we'll be opening at noon on our open days during Wurst Fest. And our food truck, which is Texas Po' Boys, they just built out a kitchen, so the menu's going to be changing at the brewery, which is fantastic because I think she's going to be adding. She is the queen of comfort food, but she's going to be adding a lighter fare of food for the rest of us who don't want to eat as well.
Very good.
And I got to go back to what you said there about the Cicerone servers. That to me is no small thing. That for one thing, it's not easy to become Cicerone certified. And another thing is if I had a nickel for every time I went to a craft beer bar that had 20, 30 taps and you asked a server about a beer and they said, well, have you ever had Blue Moon? It's kind of like Blue Moon. I mean, it just drives me crazy. So, it's one thing to go through all the trouble to have great beer, but you have to have somebody that can talk about it, too. And that's a really big deal in my mind.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not Cicerone certified. I wish I was, but Keith is, and the rest of the servers are. And the standard will be you can't serve beer at Guadalupe unless you are a certified Cicerone beer server. So that's what we're doing.
Yet again, doing everything right.
Yeah, that's really great. That adds to the experience so much for me. I can't stand when I go into a place and they have the ability to tell you what it is they have. Go through all the trouble and then you can't tell me what it is. It just detracts from the experience. So that's a really cool thing. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I've had the same experience, and it's quite upsetting. You need people that are knowledgeable and can relate to those folks that want to come in and have had a Blue Moon but want something better. But you need to be able to talk IBUs. You need to be able to talk the flavors to the consumer and try to educate them. And it's evangelism. Every time somebody comes into your tap room, you have the opportunity to win them over to craft beer and to your brand. It's the best advertisement marketing that you could ever do. So that's what we're kind of committed to now, is really trying to win some souls.
Very good. Very good. Well, I love you guys. You know that, right?
Yes, sir. Back at you.
Just made it weird.
He made it weird.
Took it to a weird level.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys being on the phone again. Sorry about running in late tonight. It just happens here all the time.
We were really actually on time.
There's alcohol's involved,
And Chicken Express and technical difficulties, and that's just the way we roll.
Hey, we're flexible.
Well, thank you very much
we
for
appreciate
taking
it.
the time. Yeah, Guadalupe Brewing Company, New Braunfels, Texas. Say your address one more time.
It's 1586 Wald Road. That's W-A-L-D.
Very good. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right, thanks, guys.
Cheers. Have
Thanks,
a good night.
guys. Take care.
Yeah, cheers. Bye-bye.
Prost.
Boy, I tell you, that really makes me want to go down there.
I'm not lying about wanting to go right now.
You're not going to be unimpressed.
I tell you,
promise
these 4 beers are fantastic, and that's just a small sample.
I was
Everything
going
I
to say,
had.
you must have had a difficult time picking 4 to bring back
Yeah.
with that kind of
Yeah,
variety.
He was
I
actually
did.
texting me when he
Yeah.
was there,
Yeah.
and I was like, try this. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm 4 beers deep on this, you know.
He sent me pictures of just the tap room, and I thought, damn, dude, that looks awesome. I mean, compared to before, which was fun, and they had a good
I didn't
turnout
get any
every
pictures.
time.
I'll tell you,
That
for 4
was-
hours, for 4-hour drive, night in a hotel, 4-hour drive back, it's absolutely worth going.
It's a
down.
great part of
sure.
the state, too.
Yeah, it
I
is.
love
It
it down
is.
there in Central Texas.
It is.
New Braunfels has a lot else going on for it, so.
But what I took out of this, what the hell's wrong with Blue Moon?
Where should we start?
It drives me crazy. You go to a bar and you're like, so. I kind
get
of
it.
know what I'm looking at, but if I'm with somebody who's not into beer and they're like, well, what's this beer like? And the server says, well, have you ever had Blue Moon? And I'm thinking, I know that doesn't taste like Blue Moon.
I've been to a quote unquote craft place recently that brews their own beer, very small scale, and the server told me, she goes, well, I don't know because I'm only 19, so I can't try the beer.
Right.
So yeah, I totally like that. Somebody that knows their beer that can sell it to me, yes, that's
it's
what I want.
frustrating for somebody who knows beer and wants somebody to tell them it's this, and this. It's even more frustrating when you're there with somebody who's not a beer drinker, and you'd really like for them to recommend something that this person will enjoy.
I'll take it a little bit further. I'm a glass snob. If it's in the wrong glass, I'm just like,
I'm with you on that.
You know,
I'm with
I mean,
you. Yeah.
Or if your glass is dirty,
don't give
that
me a
drives
Hefe and a
crazy.
tulip
Dirty
glass. You know?
Although the more I'm talking about that we're talking about this, the more douchey I feel. I gotta tell you.
Well, I'd say nerdy. Let's call it.
The only
Nerdy. We'll go with
Yeah.
nerdy. All right, I like that better.
the only thing that really drives me crazy about when you go to a restaurant, you can see back there in the back, they probably got 10, 15 taps, and you go, oh, what beers do you have? Oh, we have Budweiser, Coors,
Yeah.
Coors Light. I'm like, but what is that back there?
Yeah. No, what beers?
and they
do you
don't
have?
know. They actually don't know.
No, it's
and what's his name? Garrett Oliver from Brooklyn Brewing. I heard an interview with him where he was talking about beer is the only thing. I challenge you to name another thing where you can run a business that sells something, and it's okay for you to not have any idea what it is you're selling.
Right. That's a good point.
You couldn't do that with food. What do you have for food? I don't know. What do you like?
Something
You
with
like
bread.
chicken?
It's
I
got a
mean,
little bit of meat in
we've got
it.
everything.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of food do you like? We've got every kind of food.
Right.
You don't have every kind of food.
We have food
No,
that's
we do.
cooked.
Because I get
And
that
food
with
that's not
beer.
cooked.
What kind of beers do you have? Oh, we have everything. What do you want? You don't have everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you're going to need to tell me what you have.
Their everything is Bud Light, Coors Light,
Yeah.
Right.
Miller Light.
Oh, the light lagers.
I gotta point out that it's kind of interesting
Ultra.
that Keith brought up the marijuana thing, like how that's killing craft beer in Colorado. And
I thought it
California.
was interesting how, as he was saying that, I was watching marijuana kill craft beer in the other room. I mean, literally, as he
That's
I'm
a very
kidding.
interesting
I'm
point,
kidding.
though. Very interesting point. Yeah. But I could see how. That
Well,
would be.
I wonder. They talk about spirits have been surging the way craft beer has been surging in the last 10 years, and that could have an effect on it. And you wonder, does marijuana really have an effect
I
on
think
it?
those two things are going to go together. They're not going to
See,
agree.
and that's what
I agree.
I've always looked at the craft beer scene and the home brewer scene and kind of that whole thing as very much a more weed friendly environment than some other environments.
Well, I look at a market like Texas here where we don't have medicinal, we don't have recreational, anything. And the
Actually,
craft,
there is medicinal here. believe it or
Now,
not.
well, for
But
a very
ultra,
specific
ultra
Parkinson's,
limited.
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes, we don't have medicinal here. There's no dispensaries or anything like that.
don't
Yes,
have
there
there's
is. There's one in Dallas.
and that's why craft beer's killing it because
Well, but no,
There's-
but craft beer has leveled off here. But the problem is we've had, and you hear it when you talk about these breweries that are expanding and going out of business because they're basing their financial projections on 25% year-over-year growth.
Right.
It's not that craft beer is not doing well. It's that it's been going gangbusters for 15 years, and it's leveling off to what a normal business would consider great growth. And we look at it as, oh my gosh, the bubble has
crashing.
burst.
Right. It's all
know,
relative.
Yeah, it's all relative. There was never going to keep up that pace forever. So I don't know. I don't think any more people are smoking weed now that it's legal in places than were before. They're just doing it legally.
If they've
Well,
ever had a good
ex-
beer, they're going to
so,
stick with good
yeah,
beer.
I think
Yeah.
exactly. People in Texas aren't like, oh, you know what? Let's see. I can either drink a good beer or I can smoke a joint illegally. Well, let me take the legal route. No,
right. As soon as that's legal, I'll get away from
I'm going to
this
stop
beer.
drinking beer.
Yeah,
No,
they're
I
still
mean,
going to drink it.
Get rid of this old beer.
they're still going to drink the beer. They're still going to smoke the joint.
Yeah.
If that's your
There's just natural ebbs and
inclination.
flows
Yeah.
in business. I think we're just seeing what is actually an incredible run for craft beer in terms of growth.
Well,
It's something you never see in other
I would say
industries.
it's a influx of or just max capacity of a bunch of crappy breweries.
Right.
Well, yeah, that probably actually has more effect on the craft beer market.
Yeah.
Poor
just not
quality
here.
beer.
Saturation of subpar beers.
there's so many times that I go to different places and I'm just like, not that they're bad, but it's like I'm not really excited about it. And if I'm not really excited about a beer, why do I want to go there?
I think it has to do with the maturation of the overall beer scene. Like I think we're at that peak level here
Yeah.
in Texas of crappy beer. We have great beer around here. I'm not trying to say we have crappy beer around here, but there are more breweries that won't survive over the long run that are in existence now just because of the point that we're at in the arc.
Right.
You know, like when we go to Portland or you go to California or like Western Michigan or something that's a much more mature beer scene. There's just as many breweries, but they're all
good.
all good. Yeah, for the most part,
For the
they're
most
not
part.
I
all
was gonna
good.
say,
Well,
say,
percentage
You're never gonna get 100%.
There's more good than not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we're
I
still
agree with that.
we're still hitting that point
Yeah.
where it's like you can still be successful and have okay beer,
Right.
just because you'll have local, like neighborhood support. And that's going to go away as it becomes more and more saturated, and there's just going to be a balancing out of the market.
Right.
Oh, so anyway,
So,
so
back-
we wanted to finish up the recent
Yeah,
Yes,
we get
recent
back to recent
happenings. Got to move
Yeah, we were
forward.
going to talk about
people.
you being old, right? What was that?
Well, that's one of the things. Well,
That really is not why I wanted to go back to recent.
I don't know. It was on the sheet. I was just reading on the sheet.
It's one of the things we want to do. So, Mr. Brendan had a birthday this week.
I don't think anybody knows Mr. Brendan.
It's you, dude.
Cerberus.
Stubby had
the
a
Stubbles.
birthday. And
Yes, I
so,
did. Yay.
so what has happened in the previous few years?
Yay.
Now, where the fuck is my bottle of scotch?
It's right there.
I got your bottle.
Yeah, look, we all chipped in.
They got me a bottle of Fireball.
Yeah, this stuff.
Because
this
I
stuff
was
is the finest.
I was charged with getting you a bottle of whiskey this year.
Oh,
so-
yeah.
And this is what he got. This was $200. He told us.
Yes.
It's all about the
And he was
risk
gone
factor.
for a while.
I think I got screwed on that deal.
You haven't
I
even
was
paid
just
yet.
kidding.
There you go.
Yeah, all right. So this
Oh,
is from
man.
all of us.
Oh,
Thank you
thanks,
for everything.
guys.
You
Man,
have to
happy
drink
birthday.
it tonight
Happy birthday.
by
I
yourself.
was just kidding. Y'all really didn't have to give me a bottle of scotch, but y'all set the precedent.
All right, well, I'll take it back then. Keep the cash.
Keep the fireball.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah, I'll tell you a bit about that
ooh.
during the break.
I'm going to be just drinking this while y'all drink beer. I'm just saying.
Well, I'll take the English beers home again then.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Come and distill it.
That's all right.
It might be like a total battle, right? If we drink a bunch of English beers and then Scotch.
Well, that's going on the floor, so.
Happy birthday, dude.
All right,
Yeah, happy
thanks,
birthday,
man. Appreciate it, brother.
You're old.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Hey,
just
dude,
turned
easy.
turned
easy.
65. You know.
Yeah.
He's still
I'm
in the
1
old.
month behind.
He was either 65, 75, somewhere in between. I don't.
He's still in the oldest one in the
Damn,
room.
Jimmy, we're old, dude.
Well, I think so. Hey, hold on, wait. How old are you, Brandon?
I'm the same age as y'all.
Dang it.
I'm like 8 months off of study.
Nigel.
Yeah.
I got you by years.
By
Years.
An experience
And Eric.
or wisdom?
Both.
Nigel's actually 24.
And stamp.
See, the English
He
age
just
is
has,
so much more
he
graceful
just has
than
a
us.
thyroid issue.
In dog years.
Dog years.
He has a thyroid issue. Oh man, we need a Jimmy around here more often.
No, I don't think we do.
All right, before we get too out of hand here, let's get back on our
So-
schedule here. We had one more recent happening that we were going to talk
Oh
about.
yeah, we got the big brew rig just about
Yeah.
finished. So. For
Yes.
for the Come and Brew It patrons, so we'll be able
So-
to do the big.
So elaborate on that a little bit more for those people out there who are not patrons, who are not going to benefit from
Yeah,
this.
Greg.
What do we-
Maybe
Yeah,
you
our
can
$20
explain.
patrons all get to have a brew day with us, and it's one of those things where
Whether they like it
depending
or not.
depending on where you're at and the situation, if you're near us or you can get to us and we can schedule it out, we'll have a brew day together. We're trying to make sure that we can make that happen, and we've been waiting through the move, everything leading up to the move. We've had some guys that are waiting for this for a while, and what we wanted to do is do like a big brew where you guys choose a recipe, and then we all sort of modify this a little bit, and it's something to talk about on air after the fact. You can be on with us to see how your batch came out, whatever, but you're going to get a batch to go home with, for that, and that's $20 patrons.
It depends. I mean, you can be on with us as long as you're really ugly. That's our criteria around here.
Why? So it makes us look good.
No, I mean,
Because if you see how pretty we are.
yeah, look around the room, dude.
But mainly it's one of those things that like we want to do a big batch and split it out, and like we want you to be at the core of this to create the content that comes out of it. Like we're going to do some different stuff, but like you're going to lead through this. We're going to develop the recipe with you and talk about it, everything. And we finally are getting to the point now that we have a good method to make this happen. We have a place to do it. We just have to start getting some times set up. I think the kettle is
It's ready.
yeah. So
Just got to finish the hoses. and
we're
all
there,
that
guys.
Right.
You've been asking me, so if you're listening,
stuff. Yeah.
we're going to start setting up some times coming up. Now, the bad side, of course, is that we're going into November and December, which is hard for a lot of
Yeah,
people to get
for sure.
anything set
Maybe
up.
January.
But yeah, we're going to start working this out.
But also the other thing is that we have the Learn to Homebrew Day that we're partnering with
Right.
the Cowtown Brewing
Cowtown
Company.
Brewing Company, yeah.
So if you guys are local and you want to come out and hang out, we're going to be brewing a couple different batches.
Saturday, November 3rd, so that's next Saturday compared to today. And it's going to be noon to 6, more or less. And it's just we're going
Someone's
to
having
hang
a
out
little too
outside,
much
have
fun
some
in the
brews,
booth over there.
and they're going to be doing their normal thing. So you can go in there and get their beer and barbecue, and then come hang out with us and just have a good time. So
I'll be out there brewing. I don't know who else will, but
I'll also be out there.
Michael,
brewing.
Chris, and hopefully some more guys we can get out
I
there.
won't be
So
there.
Nigel says F for everybody. He's not going.
I'll be serving our loyal customers that are coming to the store that day.
Yeah, there you go. Anyhow, no, I thought that was some great stuff. So anyway, beer work.
I'll
I
be
guess.
killing deer.
Oh, it's
I'll
that
be
time.
murdering
You're not
deer.
gonna-
Well, yeah.
No.
I'll be calling Peter.
Hey, we're
Yeah.
not supposed to have any kind of political stuff on the air. Don't you remember? That's a very hot button issue.
The deer
Well,
are
I'm gonna go
calling
murder
Peter.
animals.
And I'm calling some guy called Peter.
Don't worry, I do it very humanely. I sneak
Okay.
up on them, I roll them over, and I tickle their belly till they go to sleep, and then I just
slip
stab
their-
them till they're dead.
Super humane. Super humane.
Oh my goodness. Anyway,
Anyway, beer work.
Makes them more delicious.
The Beer Works is coming up pretty soon. Michael, I want you to make sure you keep some of that brewed if you guys haven't finished it off yet.
I'll rebrew it. It turned out
Okay.
It turned out like a brew.
it came out rather cloudy, and I think it's life happened and we didn't transfer as quick and stuff. So I think some of it's the hops dropped
Hey,
out.
it's still something.
The flavor though was on point. So I think if we rebrew it, we're going to get the results we want.
Okay. Well, I did the social kitchen experiment, and I tasted it. I went ahead and I tried 2 different versions, and I got through it. Man, it dropped down to just under like 1.0, and with the amount of hops in it and everything, it's actually pretty decent. I mean, it is what it is. I think there's still that sharp edge to it that y'all may or may not like. But
alcohol.
It's well, even that doesn't stand out that much.
No,
but the sorry, y'all missed that on camera. The good thing about it was I went ahead and find it. I have it sitting chilled, and I'm going to keg it, so I'm going to see what happens. But it's probably going to be a little hazy, but like the mouthfeel and everything, I'm really interested in seeing, and I want to see more people in our group get that done. So we're going to start some brewed experiments and whatnot with that. So
yeah, I'm all for that. Like I said, it's something my better half she liked the idea of the style. So we've tried the brewed, we've tried the milkshake. I would a lot rather try the brewed again. The milkshake IPA, that just didn't work for us.
What I have right now, pretty solid, and you lose a lot of beer to hops, but otherwise than that was my beer work. Otherwise, and
yeah. So I've got an English brown that I did that I did a 10-gallon 10-gallon batch. It's gonna be one of those nights.
He looked over at Nigel when he said
it's already headed that way.
10-gallon batch, split it off. I did a standard English brown with the Empire Ale yeast, which Nigel was talking me into using, and I really like the way that came out. But the other half I did a mixed fermentation with Belgian Abbey yeast. And oh shit, we're getting into Fireball.
We all doing a shot of Fireball now? Is that
all
what
right,
that is?
Man,
Stubby's doing a bottle real quick.
But the other half I did a mixed fermentation with the Mangrove Jack Abbey Ale yeast, which is not a real attenuative yeast, so I did that one for the esters. And then about 4 or 5 days into it, I put the Fermentus Saison yeast on to dry it out. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. It really made me think that one of the things we need to talk about is recipe formulation when you're brewing to split a batch and do 2 completely different beers.
Yeah. We can
that's
get back
something
to
we're
that.
going to talk about in upcoming episodes.
Be interested to see how that brown turns out with yours. I've got a brown with I split between Empire and New World Strong. So
okay, well, I was much more concerned with the English side of it coming out right because it's tough to, if you're going to do something that's Belgian and something that's English, I would formulate those recipes differently. So splitting it and putting the 2 different yeasts on it, I thought, well, if one of them's going to come out better than the other, I want the English one to come out right. So I really did everything towards the English side. And we'll just see how the Belgian side of it comes out.
Well, and I guess you really can't consider it beer work done this week because I'm actually brewing tomorrow. But I did Iron Mash, so that was beer week, beer work done. But tomorrow I'm brewing our Cinnamon Toast Crunch cream ale. We use a full box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch in the boil or in the mash. I'll have to bring some for you guys because it's pretty damn good.
We have a new Mikey. We have a Mikey, Mikey with hair.
I've done a Fruit Loop milkshake IPA. I'm a Mikey with hair. I don't brew with Skittles. I brew with breakfast cereal. Same thing.
Serial killer. Congratulations.
It's pretty much the same ingredients either way.
I think you call it a breast milk cream ale.
Well,
There we go again.
What I love about this Cinnamon Toast Crunch is I put it in Beersmith and I get like 85-90% efficiency because Beersmith doesn't account for the sugar in the cereal. So
we talked about that at Iron Mash. You could actually put that in as an ingredient, and if you looked at how many grams of sugar per serving, you could figure out what the fermentability of it was.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I just like having this just big ass
efficiency 5. Yeah, 95% efficiency.
Give or take 5-10%.
Yeah. It's one of those. I like having a beer that's about 8% that tastes like breakfast cereal. It's dangerous, but it's so good.
We like to live dangerously around here, though.
So, do we want to take a quick break and then go into Nigel's beers?
I think that Chris brought some beers that we need to taste and talk about before we go to break. So, Chris, you've got your Kvike and Hornindal experiments with you, along with a neutral yeast as the control, right?
I brewed Outlaw Red IPA, which is one of our kits here at Texas Brewing that uses all late edition hops, and I did a single batch of it, split it in half, and did Hornindal on one and Voss on the other, and let that ferment out. And then I did a control batch, which I had to rebrew once over because I
turn the volume down, dude.
Because I tried to.
You have the volume on? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I had to rebrew my control batch because I originally put it into a fermentation bucket that I thought was my new bucket and was my sour bucket.
Oh,
Nice.
So
That'll do it.
we
having-
could have had 4 versions then, huh?
we could have had 4, except that smelling the airlock from that one made me almost throw up. I was afraid to try it. I decided to just throw it away and
So let's
not
get
worry
some
about
beer
it.
out and
Yep.
taste it here.
Yeah, hopefully you kept
You
that
shoulda-
bucket because we got to
you
try
should-
some beers out of that.
You should have kept that and just like Wedge did.
Yeah, never throw it away.
Throw it in a keg and sit it in the garage for 104-degree summer, and see what happens in about a year and a half. You
Well,
never know.
if you want those results, just walk to the back of the studio here. There's several carboys that have that.
Nothing changes
They're ancient.
around here. Nothing
They're,
changes.
they were probably here when you were here last, so
Yeah, they're the same ones.
yeah. Go ahead and taste them.
That's
See
probably
what
the
happens.
Last time I was here,
We just want to see what happens.
87
at this
episodes
point, so.
ago.
So when we did this last week and we tasted the Hornindal versus the Voss, if I remember correctly, the Voss was a little more fruity than the Hornindal was. The Hornindal still had some fruitiness to it, right? But the Voss was.
I haven't had
More
enough of the
so?
Hornindal to really have a good character because
Okay.
everything's been Hothead and Voss for me so far.
Who had the? Did we not have a Hornindal last time? Were we waiting
Before
on
that, we
Chris?
tried it with Chris during the show, like during the break, I think.
What is that one, Chris?
This is
The first one you just poured?
Hornindal sounds dirty.
That tastes Voss.
Doesn't it?
It does.
Sounds like some kind
It's
of
Hornsby
weird
and
love doll. Yeah.
Hornsby and doll.
I've ordered a Hornindal. It'll be here next week. Never leaving the house
Can't
again.
wait to get home for the
Oh,
Hornindal.
my Hornindal.
Ever since John got that Hornindal, we never see him anymore.
Hornindal. I'm gonna work that into my everyday vernacular.
Right?
Yeah, I will. I will.
I worked with a guy that used to, when he could tell people weren't paying attention to what he was saying, he would say bonging a blintz or smoking a pancake. And I think you could do the same thing with Hornindal.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I
you're
could
just
do
talking
that.
to somebody
I
and,
could
you know,
do that.
bonging a blintz, and then you would, say whatever you're going to say. And,
Right.
you know,
right.
same thing with Hornindal.
It's all a
Oh, they're
social
both the same?
experiment.
This is both Voss.
Okay.
It's just bottle conditioned, and I brought 2 bottles in just in case.
Okay, so what you just handed me, which one?
Voss.
Boss, okay. And this does have some fruitiness to it.
And it has the orangey character.
Yeah,
that
yeah, you're right.
Voss
It is
seems to
orange.
have very strong with like an orangey.
What temperature did you ferment these at, Chris?
Room temperature.
Hey, good try, Chris.
Well, there's rooms are different temperatures.
So this one, I had the house set at 76 degrees
Okay, all
for
right.
AC.
So it was probably up around 79 or 80 as it was fermented.
Maybe, but it was in a cold room in my brand new house. First beer that I'd brewed in the new house, and it sat in a dark closet. I tried to do since these are room temperature yeasts, I tried to replicate it to ways that many customers have said they've done it. It's like, I shoved it in the back closet under the stairs or something like that.
See, now the more I drink this, the more the hops begin to take over my palate, and it kind of settles down the fruitiness of the esters.
and it's strictly late edition hops.
It's 25 and Whirlpool.
So there's no 60-minute addition?
Correct.
Okay.
That explains a
I
lot.
think
I was
the more
confused
I
there for a
drink
minute.
this and the more the hops settle in, the more I like it, and the fruitiness of the esters start to fade off a little bit. You get them a lot when you first drink it.
There's a lot of orange juice to Voss.
A lot of it,
really.
yeah.
So everything I've had so far.
Which works well with
it really
with
covers up the caramel to me.
That's what it.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
what
it
I was
does.
Thinking, yeah.
and it works well with the sea hops and that kind of thing. This
Yeah.
has a little bit more of like a piney
Yeah.
hop to it. I don't know what hops are in this, but it
I believe
contrasts
it's-
a little bit with that.
very
I believe
resin-
it's Warrior,
Resinous, yeah.
It's resinous.
Citra, Galaxy, and something else.
Okay.
And Mosaic.
Mosaic, yeah.
That explains it.
There you go.
Yeah, the
So
Kavike
do we have
play
the
well with
Hornindal
Mosaic.
also?
So.
Bringing it over.
Oh,
That's a great experiment, by the way.
we've been doing this a lot lately.
Have
It's
you?
been very.
Yeah.
Greg and Nigel in particular have been doing a lot of these.
I think early on, like
Yeah, I did all of my
a good 5 beers
experimentation in
into my
college.
home brewing career, I forgot the bitter hops.
I like experimenting with Greg.
Yeah.
I like it too.
Whoa,
I just can't say it enough.
Well,
the old dog in the bathtub.
We're doing it again tomorrow.
the old pig and a whistle. Yeah.
The rusty trombone.
Oh man, now I got really bad mental pictures now.
Dirty Sanchez.
Since Greg and Nigel, you guys have
friendly
been doing a lot of
Sanchez.
work with these Norwegian strains, what would you say if I don't have right now? I don't have the space in my ferment chamber. So what would be the
Same beer.
cleanest of the three of them?
The hothead.
Would it be the hothead?
Hothead's been really clean.
Different colors.
I mean, that would be the best way to go. Is if I just wanted something
think-
almost USO5-esque.
I'm not going to say that. No,
but
I think
I
it's
mean,
going to be,
I-
it's
well,
gonna be
no,
applying
I thought it
something.
was pretty close.
I'm aiming for something really clean like that. you
Hothead's
know?
pretty solid with that because what Nigel
I
gave
like the second
before
one
with
better.
that the first one he made with that the what lemon pepper and I mean it was clean and it
Well,
showed the ingredients more than anything else I think and
The IPAs that you brought in last week, the hothead one,
Yeah.
after we had the other, what you had the Voss and the, which other one?
no I didn't just Voss and Hothead.
Was it just Voss and hothead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this Ornandal.
Oh, but you had the double and the single.
Yeah.
You had the West Coast and
Right.
the double, yeah. When we got to the hothead, which we had last, I thought, this is incredibly clean. It was by far the least estery of any of them. Now, with those beers, I actually liked the esters a little bit better. I really like this Hornindal.
The Ornandal reminds me a lot more of the Hothead than the Voss. The Voss I think is adding a lot of character to it.
Yeah.
And the other beers, like Nigel made a wit beer that had the Voss, but we're pretty sure it got infected because there's a phenolic character there that shouldn't have been there, and it's not showing up in any other Voss beer. But that had the same orange juice character like crazy that every other Voss beer I've had.
Yeah, I've still got the
has.
3-gallon keg to gas up yet, so that hopefully
Okay.
might be good, but
All right.
we'll see. Unlikely, but you never know.
See, now I did that stout with the Voss, and although it had some fruitiness to it, I would really describe it more as English esters, and it didn't have that orangey taste to it. Now it had a lot of chocolate and roast in it to kind
Which
of
might have totally dampened that.
Yeah, and it also was on the low. My room temperature I was measuring it. The fermentation was at about 71, 72 degrees, so it was on the lower end of what a lot of these experiments have been. So that one worked really well. I think it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. If you are brewing in the summer with no temperature control and it's 80 degrees in whatever room and your fermentation is going to take it up to 85, I think you want to go more towards the Hornindal or the hothead to keep it more neutral. But if you're in the 70 degree range or 75 degree range, I think you can get away with the Voss a little bit more.
Or you can play with the characteristics of the Voss to see if that's what you want in the beer. I mean,
Yeah, to fit it in. Like with the IPAs you did, it really fit in well with the hops that you had.
Those are totally different beers compared to Control, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, so much.
It's a little hard to make out the
Where's the control? Oh, is that what's being passed
passed
around?
around
Okay.
right now.
All right.
It's a little hard to make out the subtle sweet and floral flavors in the original Control batch after tasting those two extremes on the
Well, you get a
Quebec's.
lot more of the actual malt character, I think, in this than you
Mhm.
did with the... Because there's so many esters and hop characteristics in the previous batches.
I gotta say, I like the control batch the best.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I figured I would like it the most. That's why I did a full batch of it. I had considered splitting this second batch and doing half Control and half Hothead, and then taking the Hothead and putting it in the garage, but it got cold.
But this is a red IPA.
Yep.
This has definitely got more hop character, I think.
It does.
Or bitterness.
Well,
anyway.
the
Bitterness,
recipe
yeah.
was
Bitterness
designed.
is
caramel.
up front. Yeah.
The recipe was designed
to be that way.
that the balance between the hops and the malt was going to be a certain way, and when you add in some of those fruity esters, it throws that malt balance off some. I
That
think
first one we had, especially, I was like, man, it completely covers up any kind of caramel.
It does, yeah,
flavor.
yeah.
It's just all ester.
Ornandal's pretty close to that, too.
the Hornindal was good. I would use the Hornindal. I like the control the best in this one, and it's not even.
It's
I
it's
didn't
an
even have
actual
to
red
think about it for a
IPA.
second. Yeah,
The,
yeah.
the other two are just sort of more IPA without the red at all. So
This
Yeah.
is good.
The other thing I'm
This
running
is really
into
good,
with
yeah.
these
Control, that's a great beer. Yeah.
is since these are my first batches I've brewed in the new house, I'm tasting the difference that water has made. Is when we brewed at your place, you added the acid to it to make it the pH right because it was the water was too soft, and I'm noticing the difference in water taste just from final product in this versus when I brewed this in my apartment.
Yeah, I guess you are on completely different water up there. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
and I run it through carbon filter, but still, it tastes vastly. It tastes like a different beer.
I really like this control batch a lot. Actually, it's
Yeah,
really
good
excellent
stuff. Yeah.
Well, this beer's been one of my the Outlaw Red IPA has been one of my go-to. I've had it. I've brewed this beer. The few years I've been brewing, I've brewed this so many different times. So yeah, this control is by far what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love this beer. It's a great beer.
I'm really tempted to try and do this old batch again. I did the experiment batches as bottle conditioned because I don't have enough kegs laying around, or enough empty kegs laying around.
It's a common problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
every keg in my house is currently full.
So I would think that my conclusion from this one is that this particular style, the red IPA, is not going to be ideal to use with the Kavaikis because the caramel flavor that's in the body, it can't balance with the esters. One of them is going to stand out or the other, and it's just that ester ruins the middle of the flavor that's important to the red IPA.
The balance. It ruins the balance.
Right. Where last week when we had I wish you
Straight
had
up
tasted the
American
ones
IPAs.
that Greg brought in last week were some of the
stellar.
most phenomenal homebrew I've ever tasted in my life.
Right.
Yeah, the West Coast and the double IPA that Greg brought in were just out of this world. And I thought that the Voss fit in really nicely. I liked the Voss better than I liked the clean hothead version of those. I thought the esters complemented what he did. Where in this particular beer, I think the esters just don't
it may
fit
have
in
to
as
do
well.
with the hops that he used too.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Because I think if you use certain hops with that particular ester, it may actually enhance the hop flavor.
Yeah, you're right.
Whereas you're thinking, oh wow, this is citrusy, orangey, whatever.
Yeah.
You're kind of getting that from
It
the
does
hops.
kind of have a
blends.
tamarind kind of deal going on.
Yeah,
man.
it
We were
does.
talking about
You're right.
tamarind earlier, and I think we were part of the same Iron Match that year. You had a tamarind blonde, like a.
Yeah, we did a tamarind blonde. I
What
know
else was that? Yeah, like casting back our minds here. Was there cumin that year?
there might have been cumin that year. Yeah, a lot of taco beers that year.
Yeah. But no, I got tamarind out of like that's what the first thing I noticed.
You're exactly right. Yeah,
Like if you suck on tamarind candy, that's what that first sample tastes like.
yeah, you're right.
We go way back, man. Way back.
Yeah. As
See,
our producer telling us that he has a lot of ideas about tamarind.
It's the first and last
a
time
very
I've ever
obscure
done
fruit.
anything at all with tamarind.
Yeah.
Well, so
I just know it from that Mexican candy.
No one, Eric, he's probably rolling it up and smoking
Yeah.
it. But
so Mike.
I think Eric's going to kick our asses before this line is over.
It's what is that? I've been.
He's the one who brought up the marijuana. And, yeah.
You know,
All right, so-
well, I was saying I got one last question on the Omega. Since I missed the Omega episode, I've been researching it a little bit. Which the Horndal, it says, has anybody really pushed the fermentation temperature? Because according to Omega, they said it adds even more dimension to C hops with high fermentation temperature, intensifying aroma and fermentation speed. Ferments well at 90 degrees or higher. Has anybody really pushed
Greg.
those 90
None
degree?
of us have done that 90 degrees.
But
I
didn't you
mean,
ferment
because
yours
that,
like
to me,
80?
that would really be. That's what they say.
I didn't do
I've-
Hornindal yet.
Yeah, I've
Oh,
been
Hornindal.
intrigued to try maybe that
Mine
one.
were about
And-
85, 86 tops. So,
So
That'll be
that-
something for us to do next summer.
yeah.
Yeah, early summer.
Yeah.
Well, you know, right
I don't
now
actually
you'd
have a
have
heater
to
at the
actively
house.
heat it
Yeah.
to get it to that point.
You would have
Well,
to.
see, and I actually have a little bit of a mini heater in my fermentation chamber.
Do it?
because at
Yeah, I
times
have a heat
when,
wrap, too.
when I've cold crashed and then bringing it back up to temperature has been a pain in the ass. So
Why
that
would-
very
wait,
well, I
why?
might try this next batch to do it at 90 degrees and use that Horndal and see what I get.
Let's take a quick
Yeah,
step
step
backwards.
back on that one.
You cold crash and then you warm it back up.
Well, no, okay. After I've cold crashed, if I'm putting my next beer in there.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
and my chamber's at 32. Well, then getting back up to 64 without a heater or anything.
Just open the door.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but even
I've tried doing that
But
as
even
well,
in the
and-
winter, like even in the winter, surprisingly,
Yeah, I'm
it
with you.
took longer than I wanted.
Yeah, I remember with the old paint can and the light bulb trick.
Yeah,
You know,
like-
just kick it on. Just
Yeah, I
change
just
the
had a
controller. just-
lamp in there,
And I'm
yeah.
like, hey, how about open the door? There we go. Yeah. But I know what you're saying. If it's in the garage or something, it's still cold outside. You still have to heat it back up to
Exactly. And I didn't want to wait a couple hours,
That's
so
all
I was
things
like,
we
hell with
learn
it.
as
Like,
homebrewers.
yeah.
Just like, I got to heat up with this paint can and a light bulb, or just open the door.
Your wife is like,
Yeah.
"Why were you out there with a hairdryer in the refrigerator?"
well, no, it happened to be
Leave
one
me
of those.
alone, bitch.
Well, why do we need this $7 little tiny heater from Walmart?
Yeah.
Damn it, because I need to heat the fermentation chamber.
Yeah, I do remember buying a heating blanket. My mom saying, "Is that my Christmas present?" I'm like, no.
What?
But thanks for the idea.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
so now it's time for a break, right?
Yeah, so let's go to break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about Nigel's beers that he brought back from
Unless he
England.
leaves.
Can't wait for that.
And I'm thinking of leaving.
See, I knew this is the part where he gets all cocky. I knew it.
You got to be nice.
See?
Kiss my ass,
nice.
bitch.
All right, well, listen to the Many Colored Death, and we'll be back in a minute.